Black World 21st Century, led by President Dr. Ron Daniels, plans the State of the Black World Conference, which is scheduled for April 29th to April 23rd in Baltimore, organized around the theme Global Africans Rise in Empowerment, Reparations, and Healing. A major goal of the 5-day conference is to strengthen the surging U.S. and global reparations movement. Equally important, they say, the conference will explore strategies and models to effectively address issues of vital concern to Black America and the Pan African world, such as the war on drugs, mass incarceration, gun violence, and gentrification, environmental justice, climate change, safe, clean, and accessible water. All that and more. And here to discuss it is Dr. Ron Daniels. Dr. Daniels, thanks again for joining the Black Press of America's Let It Be Known.
It is always my privilege to join the Black Press of America.
Well, tell us about the conference, the state of Black America, the state of Black world, really. It's the state of the Black World Conference. Tell us about this. What can we expect?
Well, it comes at a moment of great both global and national and global reckoning in terms of the issues of white supremacy and structural institutional racism and racialized capitalism, which makes it very, very crucial. We know what's happening in the United States of America in terms of the rise of white nationalism, the insurrectionists that tried to seize control. If you go to Brazil, you see the same infection there, which the forces of Bolsonaro attempted to overturn the election of Lula there. And it's
Right.
all over the world. We see these challenges. But in the face of that, reparations is rising. Global Africans are rising in a way that is incredibly powerful. And it's reflected essentially in terms of reparations. Reparations in the United States of America. We see the Evanston Initiative. You see cities all across the country building out reparations initiatives. The Institute of the Black World 21st Century, by way of the National African American Reparations Commission, is in the very center of that. On the global scale, you also see nations coming forward to apologize. Most recently, the Anglican Church issued an apology, and they're talking about putting up, it's not enough, but they're talking about putting up $100 million. The Netherlands,
Yeah,
Germany.
because apologies is just words at this point, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah, but they're putting $100 million on the table
yeah.
too. That's not enough. But I'm saying that what we're seeing is much more than that.
Mhm.
So this conference, all roads lead to Baltimore, the 19th, actually, the 19th through the 23rd, as a way of pulling together African people from across the world, including African Americans, of course, to have not only a conversation, but to build out a strategy for how we move forward. And you identified some of the key issue areas that we're going to be addressing. But one of the highlights is we are working on putting together some of the most important leaders in Black America and the Pan-African world.
Yeah.
We're extremely excited, for example, that the new Afro-descendant first woman vice president of Colombia. And Colombia, by the way, many people are not aware, has the largest number of Afro-descendants in the hemisphere other than Brazil, something like 5 million. So the Honorable Francia Marquez is the first woman Afro-descendant vice president of Colombia. We've extended an invitation to her to come, and it looks very promising. There's a new prime minister in Grenada, where for many, many years, Grenada, under the leadership of Maurice Bishop, the People's Revolutionary Government was the place. It was the shining beacon of progressive policies in the Caribbean and across the world before he was assassinated. Right. There's been a wound there for many, many years. Now a new progressive young Prime Minister, Decon Mitchell, is on the verge of confirming. PJ Patterson, the long-serving Prime Minister of the Caribbean, of Jamaica and also the Caribbean, but a global statesman is confirmed.
So, Dr. Daniels, you mentioned all these people that are going to be there, all these amazing folks. Let's get to the nitty gritty though, because there's a lot of things. You talked about reparations, right? And you mentioned, and I want to just go back to that just for one moment, because there's several other things we want to make sure that we tackle in this other than just reparations, which is extremely important. We're not downplaying it. But you mentioned on a global scale, oftentimes, particularly here in America, specifically here in America, we think of reparations from the United States, from the different municipalities and cities, but talk about the importance of it on a global scale, because the U.S., although probably as wicked as any when it comes to the transatlantic slave trade and the way they've treated African Americans from day one even down to this day, probably can't find a worse place than the U.S. as far as that's concerned. But you mentioned on a global scale, how important it is that other nations acknowledge their role.
Well, not only, yeah, it's very important. And this is why the CARICOM Reparations Commission, with which we have a synergistic relationship under the leadership of Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, who is arguably the global public intellectual leading this movement. The CARICOM Reparations Commission has the mandate of the former European colonial powers, Great Britain, France, Spain, Portugal. They have demanded reparations for Native genocide and African enslavement. Mm-hmm. And they are making progress in terms of making their case.
They're making progress in Great Britain?
Well, they're making progress in general. Great Britain is nudging towards at least some kind of acknowledgement. Even Prince Charles, before he was inaugurated, ascended to the throne, in a meeting in Kampala, not in Kampala, in East Africa, acknowledged that the Commonwealth was built on enslavement, and that the British Empire was going to have to address that issue.
And how do you hold him accountable for those statements and not let it just be a moment for the cameras?
Through political work, like any other movement, through political work, through political organizing. There are people inside of Great Britain who are pressing the case. There's a way in which corporations now are also making those kinds of acknowledgments. So that is all a matter of political work. It's all a matter of political pressure and political power. And it's not just the issuing of the call. Inside of Britain itself, there is a vibrant reparations movement, in France, in Germany, in Spain, in all of these nations. And ironically, they are the sons and daughters of those who were dispossessed through colonialism.
And Dr. Daniels, France, let's go talk about France. France still has so much of Africa colonized. They're still reaping money and other things off the backs of Africans.
Well, that's true for the whole continent, but I mean, neo-colonialism is still alive. And Nkrumah said neo-colonialism would be the last stage of imperialism. So that is a fact of life. So that's where we are. But I'm saying that what we're experiencing in all of these fronts, I mean, Africans aren't just sitting down. Now, we do have a contradiction because some of the leaders themselves have been complicit in giving away the African continent. But when you saw the U.S. Africa Summit, what you saw was almost like a new Bandung conference, a new third force in which African nations are saying, we don't have to depend on the United States. We don't have to depend on the West. There is China. And on the other hand, they're saying to China, we don't have to depend on you either because China has its own interests. And the reality is Africa is the richest continent on the face of the earth. So the key challenge becomes, and this is why it's so important, as we bring people to this conference, we're bringing young, vibrant. In fact, there's an organization called Africans Rising. These young people are not playing. They're no longer taking, it's like back in the 60s when these young activists were coming on the scene. They're not tolerating the idea that Africa's resources are going to be given away to anybody. And so we're putting those kind of folk together, but also we're saying, Belgium, you can't get away with what you did. You have to confess what you did. And what we do see now in a leader like President Adu of Ghana, he has thrown down the gauntlet, saying Pan-Africanism is the order of the day, but he's also said reparations is the order of the day. So when we talk about bringing him to the conference, Maya Moore Motley, the first woman prime minister of Barbados, she is leading the charge from the Caribbean, connecting with Africa on these critical issues. And so what we're bringing together are all of both these key statespersons and heads of state with civil society leaders to put together one of the most formidable coalitions to demand reparations. And they will all be in Baltimore, April 19th to the 23rd.
And you mentioned
the State of the Black World Conference.
Yeah, and it mentions healing, right? And can you have healing without reparations?
Well, I think we as Africans, no, ultimately not. But I think internally, we have to be going through a process of healing. And a part of that process of healing is the demand itself.
Right.
People who will allow themselves to be stepped on and wounded without fighting back will never be healed. So the fighting is a part of the healing. The work is a part of the healing. And so that's why we focus not only on the question of reparations, ultimately there's an internal healing that has to take place, and there can be no reconciliation or healing with the oppressor until there has been full repair. Full repair will never ever happen, in the sense that there's no amount of resources that can ever pay for the Holocaust of enslavement, the millions of people who have died and suffered in the extraction of billions and trillions, untold amounts of resources. But what we can do is state our case and fight for our case. And that's what's going to happen at the State of the Black World Conference, April 19th to the 23rd.
Okay, so and also let's tackle this issue, the war on drugs. I know that, and we're talking in the vein of reparations. We just did a story in San Francisco. The commission there, the reparations commission there, has recommended, and this is their reparations commission really targeted the war on drugs and gentrification and redlining and things of that nature. The war on drugs was so damaging to Black America, and I'm sure it extended across borders too. Talk about what we can hear or expect to hear during the State of the Black World in Baltimore about the war on drugs.
Well, first of all, let me say why that's also important what happened in San Francisco, because it definitively lets people know that reparations is for enslavement, yes, but it's also for all of the legacies, all of the racially targeted and exclusionary policies. And this is what we have said with the National African American Reparations Commission. And it is indeed global in terms of all of its aspects. What you can expect to hear on in terms of the war on drugs is the efforts that are being made across this country and across this world to completely dismantle the war on drugs, to create a new system that is a system that's based on public health framework, where drugs are not criminalized, where in fact people are not, again, as like we said, the war on drugs is a war on us. Michelle Alexander, in her new book, The New Jim Crow, pointed out that we were being targeted in terms of the war on drugs. And so we have to dismantle those systems, and that is happening all across the country. We're saying it happening, but it is not yet done. So we want to complete that mission, but it's not just in the United States. We're going to be putting together, again, people from all across the globe, all across the world, to interface and discuss not just the problem, but how it is that we're moving forward to resolve the problem in terms of the kinds of initiatives that will be put on the table.
Are you optimistic with the proposal in San Francisco that ultimately the lawmakers there are going to adopt this proposal? Put it that way. I mean, it's such a massive proposal.
What Frederick Douglass would say is, no struggle, no progress, right? I mean, will they adopt it? They're not going to adopt it without a struggle, because this is an enormous amount of resources in their heads. But it's not really an enormous amount of resources. So
not when you think in true reparations.
Yeah, well,
right.
And not only when you're just talking about individuals, you're talking about rebuilding communities that have been devastated.
Correct.
We had the opportunity most recently when we were in Evanston for the annual reparations local gathering. Areva Martin from who talked about what happened in I think it was Palm Springs. I had never heard of that. A community burned down. People burned Black people's homes down. So even if you compensate the individuals, how do you rebuild those communities? That's why we talk about direct benefits as well as community benefits. And that's why, again, all of this will be important, because there's a need for people to come together, to get the guidance, to interchange with each other, to learn from each other, to get strength from each other in all of these different areas. And one of the things that we specialize in the State of the Black World Conferences is that everybody will get an opportunity to see all of the areas, to experience what the key issues are, but you only pick one for a deep qualitative dive on our Saturday, in which we have 3 2.5-hour sessions in which you get a qualitative deep dive, so that you just don't jump around. And what we want people to leave with is a toolkit, either virtual or in-hand toolkit that you can take back to your community and use that to help move the struggle forward.
So it'll be mentioned virtual. I have to ask that. So it's in person and virtual. There'll be a
No, no,
virtual
no. I'm
component.
saying no. There
Oh,
may
okay.
be. It will be virtual in that the town hall meetings. There's a town hall meeting that will be on reparations. Huge
Okay.
town hall meeting because we expect some of the people I just mentioned to be there for that. And then there'll be another town hall meeting that will assess, since America is in the belly of the beast, as we said back in the day, what's happening with this new administration now. Now that we've had the election and the outcome, what's happening 90 days out? It'll be approximately about 100 days out, and that will be streamed live. And then the closing session will also be streamed live. And this is where we'll hear the report backs from our various task forces, the various working areas. And it will be where our honorary chair, the Honorable Julius Garvey, I'm going to make him honorable, the Dr. Julius Garvey, the son of the Marcus Mosiah Garvey, but a
Yep.
iconic reparations leader in his own right, will actually be speaking on that day, as well as many, many others. So again, this is one of the great global gatherings of the 21st century, the State of the Black World Conference. All roads lead to Baltimore, and we want people to go to the website, ibw21.org, sign up, get ready. We're going to have freedom ride buses coming from different cities. It's going to be on fire because we need to be on fire in terms of, again, confronting and purging and cleansing these systems of white supremacy, institutional racism, and racialized capitalism.
Yeah, and so Dr. Daniels, you mentioned Freedom Ride buses, and of course that's certainly a nod to the civil rights era and beyond. Young people might hear that and think, okay, well that's the same old, same old. How do you attract young people to something as important as this?
Well, among you include young people. So in all of these panels, in all of these areas, there will be young people. But at every State of the Black World Conference, there is always a major cross-generational panel,
Mhm.
dialogue and discussion. And so we have two of them in this State of the Black World Conference. One will deal with people coming to understand the kind of radical theory that the movement for Black Lives Matter has identified. And so there'll be a session on the Black feminist, queer organizing perspective, which is
Mhm.
for some people somewhat controversial, but we want people to hear why it is that Black Lives Matter believes that all Black Lives Matter, including trans folks and the LGBT community, and some of them who are at the very forefront. The other one will be on hip hop, because hip hop is a major, major force in this world. But we want to talk about how can hip hop contribute to the Black freedom struggle. So those will be two major dedicated sessions, but there'll be young voices across the spectrum. In each and every one of these areas, there'll be young organizers, young people who are on the front lines. But these freedom rides will be designed to be cross-generational. So we'll have young people who are organizing, we'll have people from the Black Power generation, the Civil Rights generation on those buses, having conversation with each other, learning from each other, and rolling into Baltimore to interface and be involved with all of these great people from all over Black America, but all over the Pan-African world.
Wow. So, Dr. Kings, putting this together takes a lot of planning. How long did it take you to put it together? What went into the planning of this?
Well, we do these typically. What we do is have State of the Black World conferences every 4 years after presidential elections. This is number 5. And so
Yep.
it's important to also state that this one is very special for a lot of reasons. One, we reschedule it from 2022 because we wanted to be in person and we wanted to avoid COVID. It would have been happening in November
Okay.
after the midterm elections. But as you may recall, we had a town hall meeting in lieu of that and pointed to the spring of 2023. 50th anniversary of the Gary National Black Political Convention. I was a critical part of that. African Liberation Day, 50 years. I was one of the founders of it. It really
Right.
marks the 20th anniversary of the founding of the Institute of the Black World 21st Century. And I've been blessed to live as of April 26th last year, 80 years. So we're also going to be dealing with a special birthday as a part of this overall process. So we tend to take a long time to plan them because they typically have been every 4 years. But we
Yeah,
now
but a
have a
lot
blue.
goes into it.
Yeah, but we have a template now, and that template. So we just have to adjust that template. What is different about this one was the last one was in Newark under the leadership of the Honorable Raj J. Baraka, who was an incredible supporter of it, and it was amazing in terms of its content. So we have the framework, and people look forward to it. It's just now adjusting it. This one, however, is the first one that has ever been this global in scope and scale, and that's a heavier lift. And to be honest about it, because I am playing a central role, as is IBW and the reparations movement, we kind of got behind in terms of the promotion, but we're catching up. And this interview and the kind of interviews we're doing, our allies and friends, we're pumping it up. And to be honest about it, we don't want more than a certain number of people to come. And let me just explain what I mean by that.
Yeah, please.
Because in order to have the quality interaction that we really want, we have those 8 sessions. Well, if we had 3,000 people register, can you imagine how big those 8 sessions? So we don't want them at that level where we don't want them to be, we don't want to sacrifice quality for quantity in that regard.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing that I'm so proud about in terms of what we do with State of the Black World Conferences. Back in the day, we used to say, we're going into the hood. We got to go into the Black neighborhoods. We got to take it to the people. So you have a conference, you take it to the people. Registration fee is $25. Registration fee is $50. Well, the people can't afford the $50, $100, you know. So what we do is we always have sessions that are free and open to the public. So the major town hall meeting on reparations with all these high profile people will be free and open to the public. The town hall meeting on the assessment of Black America in the Pan-African world, free and open to the public. And the final session is free and open to the public. What we say is come prepared to make a tax deductible contribution to support the cause. But what's about this? If you can't afford it, you still come. And those sessions have anywhere from 2,000, 2,500. There'll be huge sessions.
Wow.
And they'll be streamed all over the world. But I love that because that means we're in the center of Baltimore. You used to be there and we would be in with the people, but not of the people. Now the people, no matter whether you can afford the registration fee or not, you can come and participate in the State of the Black World Conference.
Wow. Well, again, give us the information how someone could register and what they need to do.
Well, what you need to go do is go to the website ibw21.org, ibw21.org, and you need to sign up. There's an early registration fee because after a certain time, the registration fee is going to go up. We're incentivizing people to register now and register early. And if you look through that program, you're going to be ready to go right now because this is an incredibly powerful event. It'll be at the Baltimore Inner Harbor Hilton and the Convention Center. So it's all under one roof. But if you want to go outside, if you've been to the Baltimore Inner Harbor area, it's very, very beautiful. We've reached out to the new governor, the first Black governor in the history of Maryland. And we anticipate that he's going to be there to help welcome us.
And look, Baltimore has a young Black mayor.
Yeah, and we're reaching out to the mayor for him to be involved as well. He's been so busy, we haven't quite gotten to him yet, but we anticipate that he will because there's no way we're having all of these high from Danny Glover and the heads of state that are coming, P.J. Patterson, all of these leaders are coming. You know, this is a major, major protocol question and security issue. So we know that they're going to be on board for the State of the Black World Conference. Baltimore is going to be at the center of the Black world, April 19th to the 23rd. All roads lead to Baltimore for the State of the Black World Conference 5. IBW21.org. That's IBW21.org.
Well, there you have it, folks. The Institute of the Black World 21st Century. President Dr. Ron Daniels and the State of the Black World Conference coming up in Baltimore. Thanks so much, Dr. Daniels, for sharing with the Black Presses. Let it be known this important conference. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you again.
Thank you.